Hello, I am Leah Wilson, Executive Director and co-founder of Stand for Health Freedom, and I have the opportunity to sit with a young emerging artist, Victory Boyd, today and hear her story about having to make a decision between pursuing her dreams and the jab. So thank you so much, Victory, for joining us today to hear a little bit about your story.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yes. So Victory was given the opportunity to sing at the NFL season opener for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the national anthem, which for a young artist, musician, songwriter, music educator is pretty much a pinnacle, to enter that world stage in a stadium full of spectators and launch your musical career to a whole new level. However, she was faced with a decision that would complicate pursuing that dream. And I would love for her to be able to share with you all the decision that she made and why, because so many of us are facing very similar decisions today in our workplace, in our educational careers. And we hear from so many athletes who are in a very similar situation of playing at the college level or going to the professional level with something that they have worked their entire lives to achieve. So thank you so much, Victory, for being willing to share exactly what you faced with the decision. If you could just tell us a little bit about when did you find out that singing the national anthem for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers would involve this type of dilemma?
Yeah, well, firstly, I found out that my talent and that my years of hard work uh, earned me such a position about a month out from the actual performance and from the game, and I was honored. I was just absolutely honored that they would um, see me as the perfect way to open up the entire season, and so I started preparing, and I created just the best possible version of the national anthem I could with all my years of experience, and started training just a month out, and but it was about 2 weeks out from the performance that I learned that my vaccination status um, is is something that could cause the entire thing to unravel, um, and uh, and so initially, my dad was thinking, oh no, it's going to be okay. I'm going to go and speak with them, and we'll tell them about your belief system, and they should honor um, the Constitution, really, where it talks about freedom of religion, and give you an exemption from having to be in their facility with the jab. And so originally, that made perfect sense. My dad went and talked to the director of events there at the NFL, and he's like, this makes a lot of sense. This shouldn't be a problem. But later on that same day, we got a call that they would not be able or willing to honor a religious exemption, and that they would prefer to go down a different route with different artists. And so that's what ended up happening. They dropped me on August 31st, and then the game was on September 9th. And yeah, I felt like this was the beginning of being locked out of uh, a certain tier of privileges and rights and all sorts of different things. And not that it's my right to sing at the NFL, um, but it's I definitely don't feel entitled to such a privilege. But I don't feel like it's okay to be denied on something as simple as one's medical decisions. And yeah, if it had to do with the vaccine, I mean, if it had to do with the virus, I was more than willing to test. And But it had nothing to do with being actually positive for the virus or not. had everything to do with my medical decisions. So.
Right. And so you see these policies that seem to have nothing to do with the virus, considering there were fans there that day that did not have to prove vaccination status. And
Exactly.
considering, I mean, how close, Victory, would you even be to your spectators as you're in the middle of an NFL football field? So the fact
Right.
that you were even willing to show your religious exemption, show a test, and this was still a non-starter for the NFL is says a lot about the policy. Why did you choose to stick to your decision of not getting the jab instead of getting the jab so that you could go to this next tier?
Right. Well, it was simple. I felt, well, I feel strong convictions about preserving the natural state of my body, and that's directly tied to my religious beliefs, my beliefs in my interpretation of the Bible. Everyone is has freedom to interpret it the way that they want, and I know there are a lot of Christians that interpret it and feel that strongly about getting the jab. But I interpret it differently, especially when it comes to boils down to where it talks about your body being a temple of the Holy Spirit, and to not defile the body, and so I think at this point for me, there's I've seen a lot of cases of people being harmed by the jab, and and it affecting different parts of their health, whether it be their reproductive system or their heart or their cardiovascular system, and so I'm a very health conscious person. I take care of my body because of my faith, you know, and so this is not an exception where I'm making things up just to not have to take the jab. It's a holistic thing from from the foods that I eat to the exercise to like even just with medications. I personally choose to like approach things from a natural perspective as opposed to like going to get morphine and going to get these different types of drugs that are designed to help us but could have other side effects, and so for me personally, uh, it's not something that I feel would um, I think that the risk is something that everyone has to have the opportunity to choose, right? So there's risk in not taking the jab, and there's risk in taking it. There are folks. You could look at the numbers where people are like, well, the people that are vaccinated, they're recovering more quickly if they catch COVID, and then the ones that are not have more dire symptoms. And so I'm weighing those odds. I'm weighing those risks as being one that didn't take the jab. But then you look on the other hand where you see people that took the jab that are having complications with like maybe irregular periods, or some people are I've heard of increased heart attacks and different things like that, and people attributing it um, to the jab. Here's another one. Some people that I know are saying they had intense rashes break out all over their body immediately after getting the first shot, and or one of my friends was completely healthy before getting the first shot, and then just having a tough time staying keeping well in their immune system after taking it. And so I have to weigh those risks on the other side. The risk of perhaps of being uncertain of, okay, what just happened to my body, and will I be able to get well, or am I altered permanently? No one really knows. No one knows the full extent, the full effect of what will happen when you take the jab. And so uh, I think that it's up to the individual to be able to weigh the risks. Do I weigh the risk? Do I take the chance of perhaps getting COVID and not being able to recover as quickly as those that are vaccinated? Or do I take the chance of taking the jab, but being unsure of how it altered my body for the long term? And for me, it's more important to just maintain my long term health and and steer clear of anything that is potentially harming and defiling my body.
Yes, and it is the person's choice on how they honor God with the care of their body. And exactly what we are seeing is the threat of not being able to choose a pharmaceutical free lifestyle if you so see that as best for you and for your family. And so that
Right.
pharmaceutical free lifestyle is something that so many people take for granted today. That
Mhm.
we get to look at our options and recognize that one size fits all medicine is not the only option, and in fact, there's
Exactly.
zero science behind a population wide mandate to take the same drug at the same time. And so for
Right.
us to maintain our thinking brains and to us to maintain a clear line with our God and to honor our God in the way that we choose is important. And I heard you also talk about the value of freedom as it relates to the intersection of choice and freedom. Could you share a little bit about that with us?
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Um, you know, if we don't have freedom to make decisions for ourselves, then do we really have freedom at all? If our choices are being mandated by the government or just different entities, um, our employers, you know, uh, are we really living in the freedom that our forefathers fought for us to have? And I've really been thinking a lot recently about how uh, freedom has is something that we are evolving to with every generation. You look at how far we've come as a country, and freedom was a principle that this country was built on, but it wasn't quite realized right at its inception. It was more like a dream. And with every passing generation, the dream became more and more real, but it was always an uphill battle. And I see that with with sacrificing our our right to choose, that is almost like taking steps back. That is taking steps backwards. Uh, uh, Battles that our ancestors already fought, just easily handing them over and losing that territory, losing that ground. And by the way, I don't look at it as, oh, this is a war against the government, a war against the current uh, the current person sitting in our governmental authority seats. Uh, those folks. I look at it as because regardless of who is in office, there's always going to be a spirit that is trying to inch and take away um, our freedom, because it's through freedom that there's a chance to uh, uh, through freedom we have the opportunity to um, experience love, and God is love. Without freedom, there's no chance for love to exist, because everything is mandated. Everything you do is because someone you were forced to do it, or someone you had to do it to live, or you had to do it to eat, or to take care of your family. It's not quite something that you chose to do because you love, um, and I think that the quality of life is much, much better when everyone has the ability to make a decision on how it is they want to spend their life. And so, yeah, there's a spirit that is out to take that away, that freedom. And you see it from many different generations. You see it in different countries. You see it in many different contexts. There's also spirit of division that you see as well. As long as people believe in, as long as people have animosity in their heart towards one another, that's when a lot of chaos breaks out. And so I think division is a tool that's often used from generation to generation to really hinder the human spirit and hinder the human experience here on earth. And so those two things, preserving freedom and then fighting for love, even in the midst of our differences. I think the biggest thing is to not necessarily need to change each other, but to learn how to love each other in the midst of our differences. And if we can learn how to do that, I think that, just the entire human experience worldwide is just going to be just way better. And
yes,
yeah,
it's what human experience are we dreaming of for our kids and our grandchildren? This is not about anti-government. This is not about anti-pharmaceuticals. This is not about the powers that be. This is about what is our vision to step forward and provide the proper landscape for intense, deep love of human experience and sanctity of life for those that will come after us. So I love that message that you bring and what you have taken away from your decision to take a stand for what you see best. I have to ask, has any new lyrics or song come out of this experience for you? Would you be willing to share anything with us?
Yeah. I've had quite a few just moments of intense inspiration from this whole situation. And, I've been thinking a lot about how, our forefathers fought, like, just even me as an African American, like, there's so many layers. First, just as being there's many layers in being an American, and then there's a whole other added layers of being an African American, and like both of the layers of fighting from a deficit. Americans were fighting from a deficit from the founding of our country. We didn't have a lot, but then once Americans were established, then the African Americans were fighting from a deficit just to be able to taste freedom. And are we going to relinquish it so easily? And even if it's just on the fringes, even if it's just, a little mandate here, a little, little here, it just costs too much. And so I've been really thinking about that recently, and I'm working on a song called Freedom, and I think I have the chorus down. I'm just going to say the lyrics. So it says, "Don't be afraid to pay a price. Let the blood of our forefathers testify that freedom, it ain't free. Don't be deceived by the name. Don't think that this is just a saying, because freedom, it ain't free. Don't think that we fight in vain. Don't think that there's time to be playing with your freedom, because it ain't free." So I just sing a little bit of that for you.
Yes, that'd be awesome.
Yeah. Don't be afraid to pay a price. Let the blood of our forefathers testify that freedom, it ain't free. Don't be deceived by the name. Don't think that this is just a saying, 'cause freedom, it ain't free. Don't think that we fight in vain. Don't think that there's time to be playing with your freedom, 'cause it ain't free. Oh, freedom. Oh, freedom.
Yes, so good. Thank you so much for sharing your heart song with us. I appreciate it. It's a breath of fresh air to talk to you and what you're taking out of this, because really our heart in taking advocates from wobbly to sturdy is that we convert from that victim mentality to empowered, into knowing that we have choices, and that as a community, we will choose to step forward in a way that we see fit for those that are going to come after us. So how do we follow you, Victory? I want to, something great is going to come of this. I just can feel it. So how do we make sure that we can follow your music and follow where you're going?
Yeah. So you can go to my website, The Sound of Victory, where I have my music there. You can also subscribe to my email list there. And then also my social media handles are Victory Boyd. That's on every social media channel. And one last thing I just want to say is that this is not about people that are vaccinated versus people that are unvaccinated. Like I said before, unity is going to be key in order to ensure the best human experience that we have in this world. And I think my message is one that is, well, I feel my job as an artist is to deal with the things of the heart, and not so much medical things. I can't tell you to get vaccinated or not to. That's something that's personal between you, your belief system, and your doctor. But for me, I want to remind everyone that is not vaccinated. I would like to just say, don't take on a mindset of, don't agree with this narrative that you are a threat. You're going to start seeing more and more that you can't come to this event, you can't come inside this restaurant, you're not allowed here. That does something to your mind, where it can start to have you believe that you deserve to be in this underprivileged place in life. And I want to just remind you that you don't deserve that. And that even though we're going through this, and that, we're not necessarily trying to disturb every place that says you're not allowed to do something. We're going to need to comply to some extent just to exist. Everything is not a fight all the time, but know that in your mind that this is not okay, and that you are not a second tier citizen. You're not inferior. And then for the ones that are vaccinated, I want you to reject this narrative that you are superior. This narrative that says that you deserve higher privileges in life simply based off of your vaccination status. And if we can just hold each other, hold the land, hold our world to a higher standard of equality. Like, we have to reject this tier system and hold each other to a higher standard of equality. We are going to make it through this, and we're going to make it through without these long-term residual effects of people feeling either inferior or superior to one another. And we'll be able to get back to, or move forward to life, living life and judging people based off of the content of their character, and not by anything else other than that.
Beautiful. Yes, and we wholeheartedly agree with you here at Stand for Health Freedom that we are seeking equal protection under the law, regardless of your medical decisions, regardless of your religious beliefs, of your parental decisions. And so we stand with you in that victory. And we thank you so much for being an example for young artists, for young professionals, for young athletes and students, that they could see you be courageous, and that courage will be infectious. So follow Victory Boyd on social media, go to her website, and also remember to join the movement at standforhealthfreedom.com so you can stay looped into how to take a stand in your own community. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, Leah.